What's up and welcome to Ahead of the Curve. This is your host, Jonathan Gelner, and thank you so much for joining us today. This podcast is powered by Stick and Ball TV, the baseball and softball streaming platform. Stick and Ball TV is a baseball-focused streaming platform featuring the best coaches, players, and premium brands in baseball today. Stick and Ball TV creates and curates baseball training content, on-brand partner content, and original lifestyle content, and publishes globally across their web, iOS, and Android apps. Check them out at stickandball.tv or on the Stick and Ball TV mobile app. On today's show, we're back with Kevin Kimball, head baseball coach at Phoenix College. On part one, we took a deep dive into his offensive philosophy, and so on part two, we're flipping the script from off-season to in-season and focusing on game planning and scouting, how they implement neutral mindsets, and one of my favorite takeaways from the show was Oppo Taco Tuesdays. Here is Kevin Kimball. Where do you guys flip the script? Just because the weather's perfect in Phoenix from now until May, and so I'd love to hear what you guys are doing to prepare them for the season. We get to a point where we're like off season mode. Hey, what do we need to work on? What do we need to gain? What's the one thing for you that's going to make the biggest impact? And then but once we get to December, January, then it's like, okay, now it's go time. Like we could still continue to hone different things that we're trying to do and develop different routines that we like, and continue going through those BP plans that you shared, which I love. But like what changes for you guys, and how do you prepare your team for game one?
Yeah, so we essentially just finished up fall baseball as far as just games and whatnot and being out on the field. So we had this week off to kind of just unwind a little bit, have some individual conversations with some guys, or not all of our players. I met with all of them, and just kind of talked about how the fall went, expectations for the spring, what are the things that they need to improve on, and so on and so forth. So starting on Monday, we'll kind of get into some, smaller group kind of work, hitters in the cages, pitchers getting some little bit of bullpens and whatnot, whatever it is that how we kind of set it up is essentially into some station kind of work. But as far as the hitters are concerned, we try to have as many. We're definitely believers in variability training, meaning we use overload bats, underload bats, long bats, short bats, flat bats, blast sensor, PVC pipe, as many different things as we can. Because to me, a lot of those things are essentially a hitting coach in the player's hands. Short bat helps with holding posture and kind of maintaining those angles. The long bat, which is also a heavy bat, helps with guys that maybe tend to, dump the barrel a little bit and being underneath the baseball. And anytime you're swinging something that's heavier than your normal bat, to be honest, it usually helps you sequence a little bit better, because if you don't, you're not going to swing it very well. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of old time hitters, in my opinion, had better swings than maybe some guys do now, because they swung absolute logs back in the day. And if your hips didn't initiate the movement, that barrel wasn't coming around very quick. So we do that. We do a lot of different, as far as our pitchers are concerned, we have them do I don't know how many people know about these things, but we do concentration grids with them. There's a little website you can go to, or you can print off some papers as far as that kind of stuff. Like I said, we try to do as many different things as possible. We have the command balls that have light balls that are really small, heavy balls that are big, and all sorts of in between. But to me, we try to add as many variables to things as we can, as far as throwers, hitters, and like I said, trying to fine tune things mechanically. We run a lot of sprints, and I shouldn't say a lot, but we run enough to get benefit out of it, and we get after it in the weight room. I'm also our weights instructor. I'm literally in the perfect job for me because I'm certified. I have my CSCS. I'm certified in that. That's what my degrees are in. So, I mean, there's literally every aspect of our program I have my hands on. We lift before practice, then we go to practice, and I'm obviously doing a lot of stuff there. So, if we aren't good, I can only look at myself. so that'll be nice. So if we when we start to suck, I'll only be able to get mad at me for that reason. I do all our basically recruiting, all that kind of stuff. So but yeah, I mean, the weight room we haven't really talked about it, but that's kind of our emphasis right now. And to be honest, it's an emphasis the whole year. We're definitely not one of those programs, and I don't think anybody should, where during the season you're just trying to maintain your strength. We talk about that from day one. We're trying to get stronger the whole year. Last year, our first game of the season was the last Friday in January, and we got eliminated from the World Series on June 1st, which is essentially half of a year we were playing games. So if our program was of the mindset that we're just trying to maintain strength and not kind of like let, I don't want to be sore for the game tomorrow type thing, we've essentially wasted half of a year of that guy's development as far as getting stronger. Mm-hmm. So we talk about from day one here in the fall, like we're trying to prepare our body now for those lifts that we're going to be doing in the spring, like the day before and sometimes the day of a game. Mm-hmm. That we are lifting. And that's one of the reasons I think over the years we've been good. We've gotten better over the course of the season because the work we do in the weight room, and maybe some other teams are starting to kind of wear down and maybe not putting as much emphasis, and we're still getting after it as much as possible as we can, and getting stronger as the season goes on rather than just kind of, going with the flow.
No doubt. So I think that's really neat. And with the preseason coming up, one of the things that I really enjoy is game planning. And I don't know how different, I know amateur baseball in colleges, they have synergy that they can use. I don't know if you guys have access to that. Maybe high schools we don't. And so just trying to find different ways to be able to game plan, I think is really, right now with social media and with different websites and different showcases, we can find stuff on guys. And I think that that's an area that we do well. And I don't know how many other programs do that. Hopefully, if they're good, I think that they do. But I would love to hear what your game planning process looks like. So say we have a weekend series coming up. What does that look like for you guys? How do you game plan? How do you prepare for that?
First off, I would say that has evolved over the years for me. When I first took the job here, I was really, and that was a big part of what we did here. I really wanted to get information on the other team and just all that kind of stuff. And a funny thing happened kind of over the years. I started to, I guess, dial back a little bit of that and focused more on us, I guess, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't want information on the other team and whatnot, but I used to post a scouting report on the opposing team in our dugout before every game, and like, this is how we're going to play this guy. This is how we're going to pitch in, all that kind of stuff. I haven't done that for 4 years now, basically since the year that the first in 2017 when we went to the World Series for the first time. That was the year that I stopped doing that. So now, not to say that like that's one of the reasons. One of the things I do now, I guess, a little bit differently is I put less information up on the board. Again, I'm just trying not. Sure. I don't have a bunch of time. We're not a major league organization where I have a lot of time to sit with our catcher and our pitcher before the game and talk about those types of things, or talk with our hitters for an hour before the game or whatever, and talk about. So I want us to more focus on what we're doing and what we can do to win the games. If I can find information, and you can pretty much find video on any pitcher these days, at least in our conference. Most of them are pretty good. And so I'll send like some, hey, here's a little link to this guy. This is his, him throwing all of his pitches right here on this video. Sure. So our hitters can kind of see that a little bit. And I'll usually post, who are the guys on the opposing team that have the most stolen bases. So guys are aware who they are, where they hit in the lineup, that type of thing. But I try to keep it very short.
Sure.
And, I feel like guys retain that information better rather than just all this stuff up on the board. And it's like, what do I do with all this information? So yeah, I've kind of refocused it back on us and kind of went more that route and just, a little bit of information on pitchers and that kind of stuff. And it's worked. So.
Right. No doubt. I mean, it's the longer I coach, I think the more that I don't want to get away from keeping it simple in the box. What does this guy have? What's it going to feel like? And what do I need to do to win this pitch? And I think that, having even a little bit of information on the guy gives the players at least a perceived advantage. They're like, oh, okay, I got this guy today. Like I know, and video, huge, like being able to see where the ball's coming from and what pitch shapes are, absolutely huge. Like it's, and I think most guys can find that stuff online, like you mentioned. Big deal.
Yeah, no, it's and to be honest, a few years ago, I literally would send my team a weekly email with like tons of information, whether it was about our opponent or like other things. And it was like, they can only retain so much. They're also trying to go to school, and they're also, trying to balance other things in their lives. And I was like, you know what? I just need to dial things back. Like, that was what I reevaluated with my coaching is what are the most important things that I want them to take from me, and what are the meat and potatoes of things, because that's kind of what we are as a program. We stick with if you came to watch us practice, we work on what happens in 90% of the game, meaning hitting, pitching, fielding. We probably do a lot less work than other teams in the country as far as like first and third defense and bunt defense and like all it. Not to say that those things aren't important, because they are, but when we work on them, it's very short, direct. Like, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be done in 15 minutes. You're going to get one rep, but you're the reps that you aren't in, make sure you're paying attention and getting those mental reps. And I want this done right in the games, but we're not going to be one of those teams that says, all right, we need to do 10 of these first and thirds correctly in a row before we move on to something else type thing. We're not that program. I want to be, like I said, better than the other team at the 90% of the game. And guess what? If you're leading 8-2 in the last inning, go ahead and run that first and third play, early break, whatever. We'll get you out still, and we're going to try to be better hitters, throwers, and fielders than you guys.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a guy today. Actually, we were talking about focus, and we having a takeaway for everything that we do. And one of the things he mentioned was, we sent him out a poll, and we said, we use the term green, yellow, and red lights. And it's, when you're green, when everything's going good, what does it feel like? When you're yellow, and I think it's a Ken Ravizza thing. When you're yellow and you start to feel a little bit panicky, what does that feel like? And then when you're red, what does that feel like? And a lot of it is like fear of other people's opinions, self-doubt. And so we got talking about, focus and how that separates, bad from better to good, and good to great. Like, you can see their levels of focus as they go along, and some of it is passion. And so he goes, why do you think that your players aren't as focused as they should be? And I said, man, like, once they get to a 7:00 game, I would hate to have their schedule, because, they're waking up at 7 a.m. and they've got 12 hours of just different stimuluses thrown at them all day long. So you're thinking, 5 different classes, and then you've got lunch, and then we've got prep work, and then we've got game planning and scouting reports, and then we've got pregame stuff, and then it's the game. And I was like, man, that could be part of it. Like, that's probably a big part of it. And just understanding that, And, I think the breathing and the mentality stuff, I think that's why you see this generation really grasping that and holding on to it tightly, because they don't give it any breathing room at all throughout the day almost. I don't know if you guys see that over there too. It's a big deal here.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's one of the, I guess, the most important jobs of a coach is being able to I guess see some of those things as far as, knowing your players individually, and kind of who's like, man, this guy might need a little bit of a, pat on the butt today type thing. He looks like he's kind of going through some things, and like that's learning what buttons to push, when to push them as a coach is tough. Same thing with when you're just dealing with your team as a whole, knowing when to like I feel like I can really get on them today, or you know what, today I just feel like even though they need a kind of a stern talking to, I just feel like it's not the right moment, not the right time. I got to kind of pull back the reins a little bit, and find fight that battle another day type thing. And those are things that I've learned a little bit over the years as a coach, because I used to be all just I was in your face kind of all the time, and I've had to learn, it doesn't work all the time. It's just a different day and age. I know what it was like to play for the coaches that I played for in baseball and football and basketball growing up, and they were all like those kind of they were tough guys, and they were disciplined, and it was great to kind of go through some of those things, but as a coach you have to evolve, and kind of, like I said, every year that's one of the best things about coaching junior college baseball is I only have these guys for a couple years, so it helps me kind of keep things fresh and whatnot, because I can just rely on, hey, this whole group has been here for a couple years, they know what they're doing, and kind of let them do their thing. It keeps me on my toes.
Since we're in the middle of kind of talking about preseason and in-season stuff, tell us a little bit about how you coach those moments. So you're going to have ups and downs, and inevitably your 3 holes going to have an 0 for 10, and can't see the ball, and your 9 holes going to get hot and go like 7 for 10 with like 4 pumps, and just getting guys to ride that wave. Obviously very self-reflective, and you've mentioned that several different times of how you've evolved over the years, but I'd love to hear your evolution as a process of being the head coach there for now 11 years. What does it look like, and how do you handle those moments now? And I mean, we're getting guys that are listening from pro ball all the way to youth baseball, but success and failure is going to be a constant in anything that we do, especially offensively. So I'd love to hear just your thought process on, how do we help guys ride? I'll use the term ride the wave again, but how do we help guys to be able to understand the context and to not get too high or too down?
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of use the term wave, and one of the things that we kind of talk about from day one is being that guy that's in that you're neutral. You're this guy right here. And again, not to say that you shouldn't ever get, a little bit excited, or there's times where, you need to kind of get on yourself a little bit, and maybe you're whatever, but no matter what, we're trying to be that team. And as players individually, we're here. We're this right here, all game. And that's one of the reasons why we came back and won a lot of games last year. We in over half of our wins, we were behind at one point, and we won 10 games in our last at bat. Not like doesn't necessarily mean walk off, but like we maybe in the top of the last inning we scored to take the lead and then held them. But we had quite a few walk offs, I'll tell you that. And I believe that's one of the reasons that we were able to do that. And it wasn't just last year. It's been a pretty normal thing. Not that as a coach, I wish we would just take the lead and keep it. That would make it a lot easier on me. But for whatever reason, I think that is one of the reasons, though, that we don't ever get too high or too low. And it's one thing to say it, but your players have to put that into work, and you as a coach have to exude that in your body language. If you're the guy that is, you're kind of this guy up and down all the time, your players are going to see that. So I have to, show that first. Otherwise it doesn't work. And same thing with our coaching staff. So it's tough sometimes when you get frustrated with how things are going as a coach, and you're not happy with how your team's playing. It's one of the things that I admire the most about Nick Saban at Alabama is when his teams are in close games. He's always the guy on the sideline that's trying to encourage his team and trying to, but when they're like kicking somebody's butt and it's like 56-3, that's when he's like he's chewing ass. He's all over his guys, because that's the time that you can get on them a little bit. Like you're up by 50, but your team needs you to not be that guy that's like all raising hell and or down in the dumps, mad because your team's not playing well. They need you to be that guy that is with them in the fight. And if you don't show that, which, like I said, I admire that about him that's one of the things that I've taken from him is to try to be more of that guy. And I think as coaches, we should be able to learn from other coaches, not just in our sport, but so like I said, that's one of the things I took from him.
No, Saban's a great example. And, it's when guys talk about neutral mindset, it's what's happening and what do I need to do now? And I really like that. And I've really grasped onto that I think the guy that I at least feel like made that a more popular thing was Trevor Moawad. And so for the listeners, wanting to dig more into the mentality side, he just passed away from cancer a couple of months ago, which is really unfortunate. But it takes what it takes is one of his books, and then he's got another one coming out in January. Thank goodness. But it just talks about with positive doesn't work all the time. So we're down 20. It's really hard to be like, hey, let's go get them. But it's like, okay, what is happening? What do we need to do next? And that's kind of that neutral mindset of we say less negative, but we also don't have to be Mr. Positivity all the time. And for that, I don't know about you, but that's really resonating with me, and it's helped me with that because I felt that like I was like, man, I just can't be the positive guy all the time. Like when we're getting our freaking butts kicked, it's really hard to just be like, and I think guys feel that too. I'm like, I'm not that guy. Like I'm not that guy to
yeah. Don't get me wrong. My players will tell you when we're down, like I am that guy that's like on it sometimes, but there are times where I know my team needs me to be something else. And sometimes as a coach, also, you're not just coaching that game, you're trying to keep future games in mind as far as like, we may have kind of lost this battle, but I'm trying to win the war type thing. So, but yeah, like, and even as far as like, mental approach and whatnot, I make our guys, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there was an E60 on Evan Longoria a few years ago.
Right.
This was in like 2011 with Ken Ravizza. I have that saved and I make our players watch it every year. They probably are sick of watching it, but, I love it. The fact that, where he talks about having the left field foul pole as his, kind of thing that he goes to when he needs to refocus, and the part where it talks about where I think the one year he broke his hand and he was out for the first 50 games of the year. And instead of just kind of sitting around and being, it is what it is, every time that guy that was in his spot in the lineup hit the third bait, the guy that was playing for him, every time that he went up, Longoria would put on his batting gloves, put on his helmet, and mentally go through that at bat. And that was one of the reasons I think why in his first game back after that, he had a home run. And so I talked to our players about that because in scrimmages, some of our players get more reps than others. And we talk about what it means to have, there's fair reps and there's equal reps. We're trying to be fair, meaning our better players are probably going to get a few more reps. We're going to try to keep it fair. Equal would mean everybody gets the same. And there's a big difference there. So if you're a guy that's maybe not getting as many reps, whether it's ABs or innings on the mound or, on defense, whatever, what are you doing mentally? Are you mentally go through an at bat maybe with the guy that's playing in front of you, and what would you be thinking about in this situation, in this count, when you're up or when you're on the mound or whatever? And guys tend to overlook those things. It's a very small thing. The problem with thinking small, it isn't sexy, and it can be boring sometimes, but that's what separates good from great. So
no doubt. So there was one of my favorite stories with that is, and the power of visualization. I'm not like, I don't do it as much as I should, but one of my favorite stories is there was a study done that they took people who were doing curls, like bicep curls, and they did a control group, which did nothing. They did a visualization group, which all they did was visualize themselves doing curls. And then they did a group that actually did curls. And so obviously the group that did the curls had the biggest gains, but the difference between the group that did nothing and the group that did visual. Yeah. Is it in Mind Gym? Okay.
There's one. You're talking about part of that in Mind Gym.
Oh man, I love it. But the group that did nothing got 0 gains, and the group that just visualized got like 8% gains. Like I can't remember the exact number, and it wasn't insignificant. And it wasn't like super significant, but there was a gain, like there was a difference within that. And so I've always loved that story because it's like the power of the mind is so great. It's awesome.
Yeah, you're saying a lot of the stuff I say to my players, and like I said, they probably get bored of hearing me say this stuff and sending them power of the mind and visualization. So you're saying a lot of those same things, and I think sometimes my players roll their eyes at me when I'm talking about this stuff, but I also think they get it and they realize that it's one of those things that's hard to quantify. Like, hey, had we not done 5 minutes of visualization before every practice last year, would we have still went to the World Series? Who knows? But I think it helps. It's just hard for, like I said, to kind of quantify it and be like, yeah, this is where it helped and this is how much it helped type thing. And that's the tough thing about just sports in general is everything that you do, there's no guarantees that it's going to make you this type of player or it's going to give you this amount of wins. It's like, but if you don't do it, there's a pretty good chance it's not going to happen for you. So it's just one of those things you try to do as many, as much as you can in that small window you have as a college baseball player to help you kind of, keep moving on. But sometimes it just doesn't work out.
No doubt. No, it matters. And so I want to end with your, we'll wrap this up, but you mentioned you wanted to talk a little bit about drills that we can steal from you. We stole all of your BP basically because I love it, and thank you for even sharing the screen and giving us the 10 different types of BP that you guys really like. I love it. But is there any drill that your players love that we can steal from you?
Part of it, I guess, going back to BP, every Tuesday is Oppo Taco Tuesday for us. So we're literally the last round of our BP. If you hit an opposite field bomb, I buy you a taco. It's literally Oppo Taco Tuesday. The good thing is I haven't had to pay up much because our conference is wood bats, and so like I said, I've only had to cough up a few tacos, but our players love it, and to me it also accomplishes a couple things. One, our intent to try to hit the baseball hard to the opposite field, which a lot of guys don't work on a lot. Some of our guys literally didn't realize how far they can hit the ball to the opposite field until we go through this round. They're like, oh man, I have a little more pop this way than I originally thought. So it's fun, and it's also helps us. So, but yeah, our guys usually get pretty excited about it.
Oh, that's great. Well, the last thing, Kevin, man, I love our newly, I don't want to say kindled because that's kind of a weird thing to say, but our newly founded friendship. And I'm looking forward to speaking a lot more with you, and been following you on Twitter for a while, and you're a great follower in there. I'll make sure and put the link down in the show notes. But for the coaches that are listening that are either just now getting into it, maybe they're discouraged, maybe they're looking for more resources, what have you got for them? So what is something that has changed your coaching career for the better, or advice? It could be advice. It could be a book. It could be a course. You gave us Mind Gym. I gave them It Takes What It Takes. Those are two great ones to start with. But what do you want to leave the coaches listening with? And mainly, if they were going to go back to this episode and hear one thing, what would that be?
It's a good question. As far as trying to take one thing, I try to be honest, I try to stay away from always having one thing as like the most important thing. Everybody ask me like, hey, what's your favorite song? What's your favorite? I have a lot of favorites. But to me, as far as coaches out there and learning, I learn from every coach, good or bad. I've had some coaches that weren't very good in my life, and I learned from them. You can learn something from everybody in this world, whether it's coaching or not. So you find out what's good, what's not. There's no way to replace just going through and having the experience of going through a season of coaching and whatnot. There's no replacement for that, because just kind of going through the years, like I said, there's been a couple times where I thought that I started to kind of figure things out, and this game has a way of humbling you really quick. So I'm fortunate that I've had a chance to go through some of that stuff and still be, doing what I love and being better for it. But being from, just to kind of go back to the beginning of our talk, being from Montana, I didn't have a ton of coaching growing up as far as baseball was concerned. I'm kind of I don't want to say self-made, but I essentially started out by just, if you were to see, I pulled that book down while you were talking. When I pulled it down, about 50 other books almost fell on top of me. But I just read constantly and listen to coaches talk, like you have on your podcast, which is great. Trying to get as much information from people that have actually went through it and went through some struggles, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of talked about the little dip that we had there for a couple of years, because a lot of coaches just sit here and talk about how good things are and whatnot. I'll be the first to admit, those 2 years, when I look back at that, I'm like, man, I can't believe I feel bad, with some of the things that, as far as how I coached things, with hitters and all that kind of stuff. But again, it made the next couple of years, it made me better to go through it. But I'm constantly reading on my drive to work every single day. I'm listening to audiobooks or, podcasts or whatever. And trying to find things that possibly we can implement, or a different way of viewing things, or, a drill here and there, or just whatever. But, I think as a coach, you just have to be in that mindset of, just like a player. Every year, I tell our players, every year you have to be a newer, better version of yourself. And I expect that same thing of me as a coach. Every year I'm trying to be a newer, better version of myself. And sometimes that means literally going, teaching something maybe a little bit different than I just taught the year before. And that some coaches get so hard-headed. It's like, this is my philosophy. This is what I believe in. But when you get in for information that says, that's not good, or that's not true, or that's not helping, it's like you can either stay that course and keep being hard-headed and being a disservice to your players, or you can say, you know what, admit you were wrong, and change and adjust, and be a better coach and a better person. That's our first two rules that are on our bulletin board in our dugout are: do what's right and do your best. Those are really the only rules that we have. And there's a lot of things that fall under that umbrella, but those are things when players ask me, Coach, can I do this, or can I do this? And be like, well, ask yourself, does it fall under one of those, as do what's right? Does it fall under that category? What do you think? So we try not to have a lot of rules. We give our players a lot of freedom as far as, they can and can't do. But I'm also on them as far as the discipline and being a good person and doing the right thing. And because it's not just about, having the best collection of players. The Atlanta Braves just proved that. Acuna goes down with the torn ACL and halfway through the year, and they end up winning the World Series. So there's more to baseball. There's more to winning teams. There's more to life than just like, how good and how talented are you? It's how good of a teammate can you be? And as a coach, I, again, have to set that example, and it's something that you have to talk about often. You can't just say on day one, I want you guys to be good guys and good teammates, and then that's something you never talk about again for the rest of the year. The more you talk about it, the more your players are about it, and they get that message, and you start to see those things that kind of happen organically, and that's always great to see as far as a coach is concerned, is when players start to exhibit those behaviors and doing the right things. And to me, that's where we've kind of turned the corner the most as far as just our program in general, is our players like being here. They learn a lot. We win. It's a great environment to be in. You're doing a good job as a coach when former players come back and just to kind of hang out at practice, or come say hi, or to stay in touch with you through texts and whatnot. If you're not doing a good job, then you probably aren't going to hear from those guys, and that should be kind of a wake up call for you as a coach, like that I can be better in that department. It's not just about this isn't just a baseball factory. This is we're trying to mold young men and develop champions while winning championships. So
thank you for listening to Ahead of the Curve. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review wherever you are listening. I also wanted to remind you that you can find the video portion at the AOTC channel on stickandball.tv. Have a great week.